Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just doing the steering head bearings in my Parastakar. I haven't put a movie up for a while because I haven't really had anything that you haven't seen before in other movies, and we don't want to be boring people. But now I'm doing that because I've got some stuff coming, waiting for bits and pieces up there and up there and on there and over there. And there's my Parastakar with the front end out of it, just sitting there. I'm not going to show you how to take the front end to pieces, but if you're not able to do that, well then you shouldn't be really doing the job. But it's all in bits, ready to put the bearings on. And the reason that I'm showing you this video is these bearings aren't really that bad. This is the bottom one. It has, I'm just trying to get an angle on it so you can see there, maybe it has a couple of notches, but it's actually quite evenly worn. I've been always pretty particular about keeping these adjusted and greased. They've been in about 8 years, so God knows, 180 something thousand, 200, I don't know, a long time anyway, a lot of miles. And there is a slight notch there, so I decided to do it. Now, this is the stem and the lower fork brace, or the lower bracket. Can't think of the name, but right now it's been a long day. Anyway, that bearing that I'm showing you now is always a hassle to get off that stem, and it gives a lot of people grief. The accepted method is that you heat the alloy lower tree and take the stem out of the alloy and then drive the bearing off the bottom, then heat it and put it back together again. BMW say to do that, other people say to do that. I have never done that, and I don't want to do that because I kind of think that that's such a critical part of the steering. We don't want to ever get to the point where that thing is flogged around in the lower brace, and I just don't think you need to. So what I'm going to do is just show you a way to get this off that is easier. It's quite simple, and a lot of people don't even think about it, so I just thought I'd take a minute or two and just show you. Obviously I've got the races out of the steering stem. You just use a puller for that. Other people use welders. For those of you who are thinking about welding the races, they put 3 or 4 spots of weld in here, and when the weld cools, the race shrinks and literally falls out, and it does. But if you are not a competent welder and you don't have a good welder, and you are going to be stuffing around in there trying to get the weld in the right place, there is a possibility that you could weld the race into the steering head by mistake, and I am suggesting to you that that is a very bad idea. So unless you're a very confident and competent welder, don't do that. Get a puller and get it out. If you can't do that, then you might need to get somebody to do it for you. This here is the inner race or the roller part of a bearing. This is the bit that sits up in the steering stem, sits down there and there like that, and it's just got a couple little notches and it's a bit rough. It's not really bad, and I could keep riding it, but I thought, well, rather than just muck around and sweep the floor, I might just do this. It's only a fairly simple job on a GS. Now, how to get that off? Well, people have tried all sorts of things, heat and everything else, and they all do different things. I'm just going to have to turn this off because I can't do it with one hand. But all you do is get yourself a pair of side cutters. This metal cage that holds the rollers up against the race, just cut that and break it open and take the rollers away, and you will be left with the inner, which I'll show you in a minute. Right, so we're back now, and there is the cage that I cut open and the old rollers, and there is the inner race sitting on the dust seal, which is a BMW part that goes down at the bottom of the stem first, and the bearing sits inside of that. It's designed to keep water and moisture out. But you can see now quite clearly that where the race is, there's a ridge there that you can pull on, and it makes quite an easy job out of it. Some people put a grinder mark in here, turn it upside down and get a chisel into it and knock it down. Other people actually hit them with a chisel which is quite a dangerous occupation, and shatter the inner race off the stem. But I'll have this off in a minute. I'll just put it back on hold and I'll show you. Righto, so what I've done is I've just got a bearing puller, simple little thing that fits that particular application. It's pretty dark in here because it's raining. Just hang on a second, that's a little better. And I've just relieved the back of the carrier on one side of this, on the back of it, so that I can get it over the steering stops. It's a much heavier thing than it needs to be for this job. And then I use my trusty number 212 40-year-old Thor copper-faced mallet, and you just give it a good hit like that. Very hard when you're doing this with one hand, and there it is. It's out. So no damage to the threads because I used a copper-faced mallet, and the bearing is in there in the carrier, and there you go. That's how you do it. So if you've been wondering how to get that off, there are a number of different tricks. That's the one that I use, and it works just quite fine. And now I'm going to put the steering head bearings back together and ride my bike home. So ride well, stay safe, and see you soon.